All right, here we go. It's a brand new Flyers Daily for the 11th of December, 2024. Flyers Daily, as usual, as per, brought to you by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live. Flyers with perhaps their best road performance of the season, in my opinion. I know the game finished 5-3, win over Columbus Blue Jackets. It looks closer to me than it actually was. A couple of late goals in the third period by Columbus when the Flyers let their foot off the gas. That's human nature. That's going to happen. We've seen the Flyers do that against teams to make it look closer than it is. It happens here, but the Flyers really in control from the time the opening faceoff hit the ice to the final horn. This game was not in doubt. I think the Columbus Blue Jackets, with like 10 minutes left in the third, only 12 shots on goal. Flyers really dominated the game. Look, we talked about this on yesterday's episode. In full disclosure, Columbus coming back off that road trip. That's always a tough game. We talk about that game when the Flyers are in that situation where they have to go out on the West Coast and you come back and that first game back home. Columbus had that trip, 6-game trip that sent them to Chicago, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, and Winnipeg. 5-game trip, excuse me. And you come back home and it's tough to have energy. And Columbus didn't look like they had it tonight. And the Flyers didn't give them a single reason to think that they were going to be in the game. They absolutely dominated them in all zones. In the first period, Columbus had a decent amount of offensive zone time. They only ended up with 4 shots on goal, nothing from the inside. And the Flyers just clamped down with their structure and suffocated all night. Shots on goal, all said and done, 24-17. Flyers didn't have a ton either. They didn't need to. They thought they managed the game in the third period incredibly well, knowing the situation. And they come away with 2 points and a Metropolitan Division win. The scoring opened when Noah Cates at 4:37, just going hard to the net. And I really like the play that Tyson Forster makes here. He just has that puck down low and decides to go hard to the net with it, knowing he's got Cates flowing there as well. Good job by Cates doing 2 things. One, putting himself in that position and good hand-eye coordination to knock it initially out of the air. And then 2, just sticking to it and just doing whatever you have to do to get the puck in the net. And he does it there. Puts the Flyers up 1-0. And then at 10:56 of the first period, Flyers keep it going, and they extend the lead to 2-0. First of all, really good play at the Flyers blue line by Jamie Drysdale. Comes out, he's just getting on the ice. Poke check, breaks up the play, then wins a 1 versus 2 battle on the boards, gets the puck out. They're going the other way, and Morgan Frost gets it back to Drysdale, who leads the rush, tip it into the zone, drop pass. But the thing that Drysdale does that a lot of players don't do at times, and it's a little thing, but I think it's one of the biggest factors as to why they scored the goal, was he dropped the puck and continued his trajectory on the puck line to the net, therefore causing Merlikins to have to try and look around him. And I don't think that tip-it shot beats Merlikins if he just sees it straight on from there. So really good play from Jamie Drysdale. Best game I think we've seen Jamie Drysdale stem to stern as a Philadelphia Flyer. Decisive, jumping up in the plays, killing plays multiple times defensively. He looks like that period of when he was out of the lineup, looks like it's really benefited him. He's got to keep it going, and he's got to stay available. Again, availability is the greatest ability. And if he can do that, then, boy, I mean, look, we shouldn't be shocked. The guy was a high draft pick, and he's got elite skating ability. It hasn't all come together for him yet. But when he's playing decisive like that, boy, he looks like a different player. And his indecisiveness is the kind of the wart on his play from before, where he wasn't sure if he was making the right decision and totally committing to the pinch and doing it instinctually. If he can do those things, boy, then you've got a really good player in Jamie Drysdale. So good assist from Drysdale there. Frost picks up an assist as well. Flyers go up 2-0 after 1. Head into the second period. Would Columbus have some pushback? Going into the second periods have not been kind to the Flyers this year. But they end up on the power play, 6:11 into the second period, up 2-0, and Travis Konecny picks up the power play goal. Bobby Brink and Matvei Michkov pick up the assist. Flyers with power play goals down 3 of their last 4. And not coincidentally, after I went on a major rant about the power play needing to be more consistent. So I'll pat myself on the back for that. But 3 goals in their last 4 games on the power play. They get it done here. They go up 3-0. 16:56. Columbus gets on the board on the power play And Columbus, it's Zach Werenski with a one-time shot off the post and in, and that makes it 3-1. Going back to Flyers' power play goal real quick. They scored that power play goal, Konecny's 14th. That's also the 14th game in a row that Columbus has given up a power play goal. We talked about that on yesterday's episode. This is a good week for the power play to maybe gain some confidence with Columbus, who's not good on the PK, and Detroit Thursday, who's not good on the PK. So they capitalize there. They give up a power play goal, but 3-1 game. So we know that the Flyers in the game against Florida had a 5-4 lead in the third period, and they didn't win the game. We know that they had a 3-1 lead going into the third period against Boston, didn't win the game. So what's the best way to avoid that again? Get another goal before the period's over, make it a 3-goal lead. That's what they do. 19-minute mark. Again, it's Jamie Drysdale just breaking up a play, decisively breaking up a play on Werenski just inside the Flyers' blue line. Gets the puck up the ice, Sealer to Farabee. Farabee makes a great pass, by the way, to Travis Konecny, who goes in, and I think he just shows Merzlikins that he's going to shoot the puck long side blocker, like, probably like 17 inches off the ice, just above the pad. And Merzlikins buys it, and he extends the right leg just a little bit, and Konecny just pushes it through his 5-hole. Like, it couldn't have been more nonchalant looking. It's the look of a really confident scorer in the height of his confidence. When you can do that little move with the shoulder to get the goalie to bite just enough, open up the 5-hole, and just shovel it between. Konecny went in there, heart rate of 56 beats per minute. Not panicked at all. It's so chill. And a good goal. Flyers go up 4-1, head to the third period with a 3-goal lead. Then 155 in, Michkov, an unbelievable pass out of the corner. Just ridiculous. So many highlights so far this year. Michkov from the corner with the great pass. I mean, he passes from the corner and from deep in the zone as good as anybody I've seen in a long time. I mean, Nikita Kucherov's one of the best at that, but man, is Michkov really good at that as well. And Frost stays with it, is the benefactor, gets the goal. Frost with a 2-point game. Michkov with a 2-point game. Jamie Drysdale, good performance in this one. Konecny, obviously, a 2-point game. Just a really, really good performance. Monahan got a goal in 11:42 to make it 5-2, and then Damon Severson picked up one in the final minute at 19:21 to make it 5-3, but it was not that close. Really detailed, structured, good performance from the Flyers going into Columbus and coming out with that win. I mean, the 2 points jumps them ahead of the Rangers. Rangers have 2 games in hand for the 4 spot in the Metro. It's a good time for the Flyers to play some good hockey this week. And really, against teams like Columbus and Detroit, teams that are non-playoff teams right now, they've got to be better because that's what derailed them at the end of last season. It wasn't the gauntlet that derailed them. It was the non-playoff teams after the gauntlet in the schedule last year was the reason, and their lack of performance against Chicago, Columbus, Montreal, those teams, why they didn't make the playoffs. You can be better against those teams. They started out with that tonight against Columbus. Good performance. All right, real quick, before we get to Brian Boucher, Matvei Michkov has now played in 14 games since he was scratched on back-to-back nights on November 7th and November 9th. That was Tampa Bay and Florida on that 3-game road trip. Started in Carolina, went to Tampa, went to Florida. Now he's played in 14 games since then. And I know it was a big talking point on social media, on radio. I mean, even the sports radio people were talking about it, that John Tortorella needed to step down or be fired for putting him on the bench. Well, since then, in the 14 games, here's what Matvei Michkov has done. He has scored 7 goals, so he's averaging a half a goal per game. He has 10 assists, 17 points in 14 games, well over a point per game player. And here's the big number. He's plus 13. I don't recall many instances when he's on the ice for a goal against. He has been unbelievable in all zones. And look, I don't know how much him being healthy scratched is an effect on this number, but clearly, healthy scratching him for 2 games did not ruin him. Did it help him? Maybe. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll never be able to quantify that. But the fact of the matter is since those 2 games, he's got 17 points and is a plus 13. He turned 20 2 days ago. It is stunning what he has been able to do and how he is just grabbed every moment and done something with it. And I mean, look, he's at the top of the list why Flyer fans are excited. And this feels different. Can Drysdale go on that list of why Flyer fans are really excited? Maybe, if he can stay healthy. Is Emil Andre on that list of why Flyer fans are excited about both now and the future? Absolutely, he is. You can look at some of the goalies in the systems of Ragan, Bjarnason. You can look at Kolosov. You can look at Ersson. There's a lot of reasons to be excited about the future. Still a lot to be done here. But Michkov has lit a fuse on the excitement of this fan base, and it's going off like a quarter stick. And he is worth your eyes on a Tuesday night in Columbus in the middle of December. He is worth your attention and will be in the dog days of the season in January and February. The guy is simply box office. Great performance out of Matvei Michkov once again. Just so impressed with the young man. I really am. All right, let's get to our feature conversation. Now, this conversation was recorded yesterday before the game, but I had a chance to catch up with former Flyer, former Sharks, former Blackhawks, former Coyotes. Trying to think who else Boosh played for, but played for a bunch of teams. Goaltender in the NHL, of course, now works for the NHL on TNT, which is a fantastic product. And he, of course, works for NBC Sports Philadelphia as the Flyers in-game analyst with Jim Jackson. So here's my conversation with Brian Boucher. It is a brand new edition of Flyers Daily, and we've got a return guest. It's been a while. Flyers Daily is always presented by Ticketmaster, Make More Memories Live. Joining us from the NHL on TNT, also from NBC Sports Philadelphia. He's a multi-tooled man and is doing a great job in his post-playing career. It is Boosh, Brian Boucher. Boosh, how are you?
I'm great. Did you call me a tool? Is that what you called me?
A multi-tool man.
Oh,
so you're more than a tool. You're tools. You're plural. It's been a wild start to the season so far, Boosh, in Flyerland. From some key injuries, guys like Cam York, obviously Drysdale, who just returned, and others, not to mention the goalie carousel. What's been your biggest takeaway kind of through this first third of the season so far?
Well, they've gotten back to the identity that I think we saw a lot of last year, right? Where they were hard to play against. They stuck up for each other. They defended hard. I think in the start of the year, maybe the first 6-7 games, I think they couldn't quite get up to speed with the way that they played last year. That identity that they brought that allowed them to win games and surprise a lot of teams. I think they've gotten back to that in recent weeks. So that's a positive. I know they're winless in their last 3, and part of it has to do with discipline and whatnot. But overall, I feel like that identity that they brought last year, being tough to penetrate on, defending with layers and getting blocks and not getting the quality looks maybe that teams want to get. It's been present. So it's been good. I mean, I still think there are guys that can elevate their play, particularly offensively. But overall, I think there's been some guys that have started to pick up their games, and it looks a little bit more like the team we saw last year.
Were you surprised they started out like there wasn't a lot of turnover here? It wasn't like, hey, there's 4, 5, 6 new guys on the roster, new coaching staff, new system. It was relatively, for the most part, with the exception maybe of Michkov and a couple ancillary pieces, the same as it was last year with the same coaching staff and the same structure. It was a little shocking to me that they got off to such a slow start in what seemed like an area they should have been very familiar with.
Yeah, the only thing I can say to that is just going back to when I played, it's hard to restart the engine at the start of a season. It's why when you have momentum and you're going well, you don't want that momentum to stop. And when you lose, the momentum ends. And now you've got to find a way to crank it back up again. And you can forget the price you have to pay to win games sometimes. Do you want to block that shot in game 1? Do you want to take a hit to make a play? Do you really want, it's a long year, it's coming. So it can be hard to rev up the engine. And I think even Danny talked about it, I think, in the preseason. He wasn't happy with some of his vets in the preseason. I think he thought that they were kind of a little too casual, probably. And I think some of that casual play crept into the start of the regular season. And then, once you realize, okay, we're in this thing, and the treadmill's running at, at 7.0, we got to hop on it. You get on it. And so I just think it can be tough to get the engines revved up again, and that's probably what it was. But now they're engaged. Everything's going. I think guys are playing hard, and like I said, that identity is back. I still think guys can play. Guys can elevate their games offensively. Some of them, I think, you know, there's been signs like, for example, Farabee and Tippett, they've been getting chances here recently. So hopefully that's starting to turn the corner, and maybe the results will present themselves as well.
One of the things some guys did, maybe try and jump on the 7-mile-an-hour treadmill and got spit out right away, because you can't just flip the switch. But a couple of guys, Boosh, they came out of the gate looking like they were running on a 10-mile-an-hour treadmill, are Travis Sanheim and Travis Konecny, both going to be in the Four Nations for Team Canada. Both earned it. Let's start with Sanheim, because I look at his game, and I always thought he could be a really, a good, nice player, but I didn't ever expect this. Would have been beyond my expectations. What have you seen out of Sanheim? And are you a little bit surprised, because like the maturity of the man, I think, has meant the maturity on the ice?
Yeah, you're right. I think it is about maturity, and no, I'm not really that surprised, because if you just like go back and look at players, like I think a good way to look at players is see how they did when they played junior or college, and see what type of player they were in those settings. And that should be foreshadowing of what they can be at the NHL level. And I think when you just got to be patient and give it time, especially with defensemen, goaltenders, especially. If they were dominating at a certain level and they played big minutes at that level, then it should translate eventually down the road if injuries don't get in the way, or blocked opportunity. But I think with Sanheim, he had plenty of opportunity as a young player here in Philadelphia. Went through some growing pains, and truthfully had a coach in John Tortorella that probably pushed the right buttons to get the most out of him. The one guy, we're here in Columbus right now today. The one guy, Zach Werenski, he openly talks about how good Torts was for his career and how it helped him. And probably at the time when you're going through it, and I've had this as being a player, you're going through it, and you may not like a coach because he's on you. And he's constantly, making it difficult for you, getting you out of your comfort zone, maybe ripping you in video sessions or whatever. But the reason why they're doing it is they're trying to get more out of you. And then when you pull back and you look years later, you say, whoa, that guy actually was really good for me, and I had to grow up a little bit. And I think for Travis, it's, when I say grow up, it's maturity. It's all it is. It's going through those experiences and now recognizing that, okay, I am this player. I was this player when I was younger and junior. I can be this player at the NHL level, because think about it, in the NHL now, players are retiring and dropping off, and now you're going into your prime, and you end up, it feels like you're back in that time when you were playing junior, where you were the go-to guy, the go-to guy, man. You were the guy. And if everything's been going according to plan, you can kind of go in that direction. I think that's what's happened with Sanheim. It's just a natural progression of a D man that's had to take his licks, and now you're seeing the fruits of the labor, and it's good to see. And you're right, Sanheim and Konecny, they were right off the hop, ready to go, and that's why they made the Canada Four Nations team.
The thing about Sanheim too, there's so many elements of his story that I like. I like the fact that he thought he was going to be traded. He it was all but done. Torrey Krug said no, but he didn't come back and pout about it. He got to work. And then the other element with him is it's so impressive that he's played with so many different D partners, even this season, and sides of the ice, and hasn't skipped a beat no matter what. That's familiarity is really important with D pairs. He's had to overcome that. He's done pretty damn good.
Yeah, he has, and I think it's what's made him a candidate for Team Canada, because he can play the left side and he can play the right side. I actually think he's probably a little bit better on the right side
offensively.
Yeah. So, yeah, different players, different situations, different amounts of ice time. He probably not suited for power play certainly at that level at the Four Nations tournament, but can fill in here if asked to do it. But I think just him being a shutdown guy and defending the way he does and pushing the pace 5-on-5, I think is his strength. And a great motor on him too. I mean, I know a couple summers ago when they challenged him, he got a little bit stronger, put on a little bit more muscle. And he just seems like a guy that doesn't tire. He can play big minutes. I mean, there's been some shifts out there in games this year where he's been 2.5 plus, and he might be sucking wind, but he can recover quickly and get back out there, which is a testament to how good a shape he's in.
It's funny because I remember a guy in your era, Scott Niedermayer. He never wasted a step on the ice. He was an economy of energy. He could play 30 minutes a night, but he economized. Sanheim does not economize. He's playing goal line to goal line. It's pretty
he's
remarkable.
playing hard. Yeah, and he's playing hard. You're right. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
With Konecny, I know that he goes into protocol. He comes back late in that third period and then doesn't see the ice again in the Boston game. And Torch said after he way too undisciplined, comes back the next game, he leads the team in minutes, just under 24 in that game. You knew it wasn't going to carry over. But what did you think of that decision to sit him down? And, accountability, I say it all the time, accountability is for everyone or it's for no one. But how did you kind of play out in your mind's eye?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm like kind of like a fan at that moment. Like I'm hoping that the Flyers can win the game. I'd like to see Konecny out there in overtime. I think, as a fan, I say, okay, coach, points been made. You didn't play.
Let me go win you the game.
Yeah, now let's go win a game.
Yep.
But when you're looking for the good of the group and putting your money where your mouth is and setting the tone for what you expect from your group on a nightly basis, the decision to sit him probably is not hard for Torts. I mean, he's looking at the big picture and saying, no, I don't like his discipline right now, and he's going to pay the price, and if it might cost us the game, but in the long run, we will get everybody on the right page. So, I'm not going to question Torts when it comes to that because he's won a lot of hockey games and he's been around a long, long time, and he's coached a heck of a lot more teams than I ever coached, and he knows how to get that out of his players and make them understand. So I look at it two ways, right? As a fan, I wanted him back in there because I think he can help you win in overtime because I think he's terrific in the 3-on-3. But I totally understand what Torts is doing, and I think in the long run, it's probably the right play. And I think the guys respect that, right? The guys who, Konecny probably is a guy that he gets more leash than anybody. He plays more than anybody. And there are probably some guys that play 12 minutes a night looking, over saying, hey, is he gonna do what he says he's gonna do, the coach? And he did it. And so I think those guys that are playing 12 minutes go, okay, respect. I can understand that. So when I get it, if Konecny can get it, I can get it too. That's the tone you set as a coach.
If Thursday doesn't happen against Florida with the lack of discipline, and I'm sure the message after the Florida game the next day and leading into the Boston game, we got to clean up the discipline. If that penalty, he probably doesn't get benched, but because it's something that they accentuated was an issue on Thursday, and then it continued into Saturday. That's where Torch probably says to the guys, right? He says to the boys, "Look, if you're not going to be disciplined, I'm going to sit you down," and that's it.
Yeah.
And then when it happens, you got to follow through.
Then you got to follow through. Yeah. You're probably right. I will say this, though. I mean, I will defend these guys, these players, as the day is long, because I'd rather have what they're doing than asking my players to go and stick up for teammates.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I'd rather pull it back than have to push them in.
Yeah. If you got to ask guys to go stick up for teammates, you got the wrong group of guys or you get the wrong culture. There's not the wrong culture inside that room. Those guys love each other. They stick up for each other. Are they going to make bad decisions at times?
Yep.
Yeah. Is it going to cost them some games? Maybe. Probably. But you know what? I'd rather have that than say, hey, guys, why are we not sticking up for each other? Do we not like each other? What's the problem? Do we not have the guts? Do you not have the intestinal fortitude to do it? So I know it happened in 2 consecutive games, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you because if you don't have that, your team's going nowhere.
Nowhere.
You really are going nowhere.
Yeah.
One of the guys that they've jumped in and had to show some protection for at times, but he seems pretty willing to do it on his own as well as Matvei Michkov. I don't want to talk about that element of his game, Boosh, but the element I do want to talk about is the unbelievable skill, the sense of timing and space, vision, creativity, and confidence of this kid. Because while we all know he's coming over with a lot of being very heralded for what he can potentially do, he's exceeded my expectations. And I call him a double butt player. He's the player that puts butts in the seats and then puts the butt on the edge of the seat when he's there every time he gets the puck.
Yeah.
He's been unbelievable.
He has. I talked to a couple of scouts prior to the season, and because I remember Danny was kind of trying to cool off the expectations a little bit. And some of these, two of the scouts told me, they said, make no mistakes. I really hadn't watched him play. They're like, make no mistake, this kid is a star. They said, don't buy that cooling off the expectations. He's going to deliver. And he's delivered so far. And I've called those guys back and said, you guys are right. Like, he's been as advertised, at least to the people that I've talked to. He wants the puck on his stick is all I can say. And
he loves the moment.
Yeah, and when you're a young player in this league, sometimes you don't want that puck on your stick in a key moment. Like you're kind of like you want to defer. You're happy to be there. You want it sometimes, but not all the time. He wants it all the time, and I respect that, and that's why he's been off to a great start. It's why I think he's going to be a great NHLer because he doesn't shy away from the moment. He doesn't back down from the opposition when they get in his face. He engages. He's ready. He's ready to bite their nose off. And I think that's an attitude. That's just an attitude that you have to have. He's not the biggest guy, but he shows up, and he's been great. And he's no longer a teenager. Now he's in his 20s, and
big 20-year-old.
Yeah, he's well seasoned, and he's been great. And for me, he's my front runner for the Calder Trophy. Just over what are we, a quarter way into the season?
Yeah,
he's my front runner for the Calder for sure.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting race down to the end of that with
it's gonna be a good one.
Celebrini or even Logan Stankoven down in Dallas. There's some
Don't
good
forget
names.
about that goalie in Calgary, Dustin Wolf.
Yeah, he's doing well. Also, we'll see if they can hang on though. Sometimes a bad team might drag a good goalie down.
Yeah,
Boosh. We know.
Yeah, no doubt. But I mean, he's been pretty good for them. It depends on how. It'll see how much he plays too. If he doesn't play as much as he is right now, that could hurt him as well.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the goaltending real quick because Ersson comes back the other day. We'll see how they decide to use him right now. Do they just carry 3 until they can establish that Ersson's back up, healthy, and can stay healthy?
Probably, yeah. I would think you'd want to do that. You want to get some assurance that Sam is his health is good, and that whatever lower body, it's not been confirmed what it is or isn't. So I don't want to speculate, but you want to make sure that it's not something that keeps creeping up on him, right? So, but I don't believe so. Kolosov does not need waivers, right? Am I correct in saying that?
Fedotov does.
Fedotov does. So look, I mean, our team's going to pick up 3 point something if you send Fedotov down. I'd say it's highly unlikely, but you want to make sure first. I will say I don't know what they're going to do with the situation, but I'm going to say this publicly. As a ex goaltender, I hated 3 goalies.
It's the worst.
It's the worst, and because the guy who's backing up that night, he's getting work, but the third guy isn't. And this idea that maybe your starter rest him, don't even dress him. I hated that too. Like there's no. If I'm not playing, put me on the bench. So the whole thing is it's no good long term.
No bueno in practice either because everybody's uncomfortable.
That's right.
One guy just standing there holding a stick.
Right. The starter's got the whole net, and then the other 2 guys are sharing the net. You're not getting enough work. And especially if you're doing flow drills, there's not enough practices to begin with once you get into the season. It's so hard to stay sharp. Truthfully, going down and playing games and staying engaged in games is the way to do it. But I don't know. Some guys just don't seem willing to want to do that because it's like it's insulting to get sent to the minors. But realistically, if you can go down and play, say you go play 2 out of 3 on the weekend and then get recalled,
you're gonna be sharp.
You're still sharp. So I just hated it. I don't know what they're gonna do. I really don't. I have zero insight on any of that. But I'm just speaking from an ex-goalie's point of view. 3 goalies, it's terrible.
I mean, there's the complications of it. You kind of alluded to it. Fedotov's got to go through waivers. They already lost McAnemy. So if somebody were to grab him, I think it's very unlikely as well with that ticket. 2 years of that, with his sample size is still really small,
Right.
and that somebody's going to claim him. But if they do, goaltending depth is very fleeting; it changes really quick.
Yeah.
But the other thing is just like kind of reading it. I have no inside information here. That just feels like they feel more attached to Kolosov. What have you seen out of him, Boosh? Because there's some areas of mentally where he needs to be a little bit more dialed in, where maybe he's not used to getting attacked from in the Continental Hockey League that he is getting attacked from in the NHL. Puck handling, a little indecisive there. There's a lot of rotation in his game. Maybe he needs to tighten some of those things up. Again, small sample size, but the way he moves looks every bit of NHL goalie.
Yeah, I mean, his athleticism is very high. It's very high, and his quickness. There's something there for sure. Like, I think he's got to refine some things. I think there are times when he can probably stay in position, like even the goals in Boston there, where it never doesn't get to him, but he gets back to his feet, and then it gets thrown at his feet, and they score underneath him. Like, he can stay down there and wait for that play to come to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, things are going through, pucks are going through him. He's got to tighten up at times. Like, there's been a lot of goals that have gone through his arms and stuff like that. So there's things where you're kind of like, man, boy, he could make that save, or you'd like to see him make that save, and then he makes a save that you're kind of, whoa, like, what a save he just made.
Yeah.
And because he's so athletic and so acrobatic. So to me, there's talent there. There's just, he needs reps. He simply needs reps on this size ice surface. He needs to understand where the plays are coming from, where the danger zones are, where he has to be a little bit more patient. But I'm encouraged. I think there's an NHL goalie there.
Boosh, when did you pick, as a goalie, when the play goes down the other end, you disengage slightly mentally because you're on the ice the entire 60 minutes. You can't be following every play in the offensive zone all the way at the other end. But you start to pick up your threats as the rush comes towards you. When would you start to pick up the threats of what was coming down the ice? Okay, this guy's a left-handed shot. I got Mogilny over here or whatever, and you start to really assess things.
Yeah, it's in the
red line.
It's in the neutral zone. It's when they start to cross the far blue line, you start to see the play develop, and yeah, you're gathering the information once it's in the neutral zone. So probably by the red line, you're starting to see what the options are and whether or not you can be aggressive or not. It's by the neutral zone.
Yeah, and you're starting to make those assessments and see if you can influence what they do as well.
Correct.
Yeah. Boosh, save percentage in the league is actually down. A couple of years ago, I think the average was 915, 916. It's down around 900 now. Yeah. Why do you think that is? Because the equipment was shrunk a number of years ago and it didn't have that immediate impact. But now it seems like is it the way teams are attacking?
Oof.
Or is it just some of these friggin' shooters are outrageous?
I think there's good shooters. I think that's a good question. I got to think about this here for a second.
The way they attack East-West is more prevalent than ever.
I'm going to make it a team thing. I'm going to say the one thing that when I look around the league, I think there are a lot of teams that have a lot of flaws. A lot of teams. Not just the Flyers. It's not just people probably just focus in on the Flyers, but there are a lot of teams around the league that have a lot of flaws. And there are a lot of teams that are mediocre right now. And so I think the bottom line is teams are probably giving up more than coaches would like, and they're not as good as they probably think they can be or that they should be. And because of that, it's affecting scoring chances. And truthfully, I mean, I think there are goalies in the league that you could argue they're not really NHLers just yet either.
Now you're a 32 game league, and every team goes 3 deep at this point.
And there's injuries, and so you're getting some goaltenders that are being called up and put in situations where 20 years ago they weren't. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination of things. It's not to say that these guys aren't good goalies, but they're not experienced NHL goalies just yet. But I think by and large, I watch a lot of teams, and man, there's teams that just they're not there yet.
They can't defend.
I mean, like look at a Buffalo team, for example. Everybody's expected them to make the next step, and they've got a lot of warts. And what are they going to do? Detroit, I mean, Detroit, they've got a lot of warts too. They can't seem to get it together. So, it's not just a Flyers thing. This is a league wide thing, and it makes me wonder about what teams will do come trade deadline with their what they're lacking, because would a team look at it and say, oh my god, we're in the mix this year and mortgage potential future success or future assets because they recognize that this year they have a chance, but do they have long-term sustainability? Because I think this year there's teams that are proving that they're not as good as maybe we thought they were. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how it plays out, but yeah, the goaltending, the save percentages are down, and maybe the other thing too. I don't know. I feel like who knows with these shot clocks. Back in the day they didn't verify after games. Now shots are changing after games, and they edit them. They have to because of the betting aspect, right? So they've got to make
Yeah.
sure that they get this information dialed in correct. Maybe in the past there were 3 extra shots in a game that never got taken off the board, and it's affecting save percentages too. I don't know. I mean, I think
I
there's a
think
lot
that's
of
part of it.
factors. There's a lot of factors that go into it as to why maybe save percentages are down. But boy, it's got to be frustrating if you think you had 31 shots against, and then you come in the next morning and find out it was only 28.
Yeah.
And you gave up that third goal in overtime to lose, and now your save percentage is 25 on 28 versus 28 on 31. So it's different.
Were you one of those guys that would watch the shot clock? You made like 3 saves. You make the
Oh
initial,
yeah.
then 2 rebound saves, and they put up one
Oh
shot.
yeah.
You're like, come on, dude! Like I just
Oh
made
yeah.
3 saves there.
I had a great story. It was me and Neil Little. We were playing for the Phantoms, and when we played at the Spectrum there, they told us on Sundays after the games we'd play 3-3 is at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock game on Sundays. They tell us, they're like, hey, make sure you guys go down to Bullies after and and hang out with the fans, and you don't have to tell us twice. We're gonna go have some beers after the game, right? So Litz and I were always lamenting about the lack of shots that we'd get at the Spectrum, and we'd go to Binghamton, and the shot clock there we'd leave that game and it'd be 48 shots against. I mean, like, what's the difference? I mean, we're still playing for the same team. We get 48 in Binghamton, and then we come back to the Spectrum and we got 22, and we've given up 3 goals, and our save percentage stinks. So we're having a beer one night, and the guys with the AHL patch there, the off ice officials, and we're like, hey, what do you do? And the guy goes, oh, I do the shot clock. And we're like, oh,
Sit down, dude.
you best sit down. And we bought him beers, and we told him, we said, from now on, you make sure if there's a question, it's click. You make sure you add the shots on there. And then our save percentages went up, so yeah. Oh yeah. We look at the shot clock all the time,
Did you ever roll a duct tape? He's like, you got him duct taped to the chair, his mouth duct taped.
I don't care what your
Here's
boss
what you're
said.
gonna do.
You listen to us.
And more mail goes to this kid's house. Your head goes in the oven.
In the oven it goes.
That's so classic. What do you think about the Rangers paying Shesterkin an incredible amount of money? As a goalie union, I love it. All the money in the world, but that's a lot.
Could have got more, couldn't you?
I think probably, but I guess they wanted to keep him under Panarin, but I mean, that's not my problem if I'm Shesterkin. That's a you problem.
I think he could have got 12 and a half personally. Yeah. I mean, to me, he's their best player on that team. Say what you want about Panarin or whatever, but watching that team play, they give up a lot of quality, and their record, even though it's still okay, it could be a heck of a lot worse if not for Quick and Shesterkin. But Shesterkin, to me, you got to pay a guy like that. I mean, look how many teams are dying to have a number 1 goalie in this league.
In a 32-team league.
How many teams have a real number 1 that you can rely on, like, say,
6 or
55? 7? Yeah, 6 or 7.
Yeah. I mean, and Shesterkin's obviously one. Saros is one. Hellebuck is definitely one of those guys. Yeah. I guess you put Binnington in there.
I know Colorado won with Darcy Kemper, and Vegas won with Aiden Hill, and there are arguments that you can win without a goaltender. It's been proven in the last couple of years. I got it. But to have a guy that you can count in, night out, that guy's getting you into the playoffs. You got to get to the playoffs first, and it's hard if you don't have a goaltender. If you don't have goaltending, you don't have any chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You also have Sergei Bobrovsky, who got 2 and lost and won a cup, and Vasilevsky with 2 as well. So the
Those are the
case is there.
stars.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
quick in the early and mid 2010s got you 2. Yeah, you got 1 with Niemi and 2 for Crawford with Chicago, but that Chicago team was
but we
wagon
going back that far back is it's a different game back then. I think
already.
I'm talking about recent history, like where you're talking 5-6 years now. Like, there's been cases both ways. It depends on the team you have, obviously, and how you defend. But to me, if I was a head coach, I'd want a guy that I know that I can trust. Like, it makes me sleep better at night knowing that my goaltending is solid with Shesterkin. Can't let that guy walk.
Yeah, well, I mean, what kind of message would that send to your fan base? Like, you have this. I mean, he could potentially be a Hall of Famer, one of the greats of all time. The other thing too is, you look at it and you go, I want to sleep good for the 6 months leading to the playoffs, knowing I'm going to be there when the playoffs start.
Right.
I don't need those gray hairs and stress lines all throughout the season. Boosh, thanks for doing this. It's been too long, man. I appreciate it. Have a great call in Columbus, and we'll be talking again soon.
All right, sounds good.
Always like catching up with Boosh, and frankly, it was way too long between visits for Boosh, but that's partially on me. We won't put that one on Boosh. So thanks to Boosh for joining. Hope you guys enjoyed that conversation. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to preview Flyers Detroit, and we got some good stuff planned. So join us then on a brand new Flyers Daily.